you wrote a wonderful article for wakeup-world.com, titled "I Tried Ketamine Infusions for Anxiety. Surprising Results from a Promising Psychedelic Therapy." So I wanted to switch to that, and because this is how we kind of got introduced through Warren and Zappy, who I had Zappy on my show and talking about the ketamine treatment, ketamine fund, what kind of wonderful work is being done in the space of PTSD and anxiety and stress and fully legal FDA. I'm not sure if it's FDA approved, but it's
FDA approved in 1970.
Right, FDA approved in 1970. And it's a tool that opens people's minds. It's a tool that's slowly growing out, and there's more and more awareness about it. And I'm sort of like on that mission as well to kind of introduce people to it and talk about it. I talk to doctors, I talk to veterans, talk to people who had PTSD and anxiety, and wanted to talk to you because you did that, and you very nicely described this in this article, your journey. So, but as a book author of Joy Plan, in which you address all these daily practices that you employed before, right? You employed mindfulness and meditation, all those things that that we think of like you need to do, eating healthy, sleeping enough, all those things that should kind of align our lives. You still decided to do the ketamine treatment. Tell me more about how that happened, why that happened, and then like how was your experience?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I do have daily practices that I do that we've talked about. And the truth is, sometimes it's not enough. Sometimes there are certain circumstances that just feel too hard. And as someone who has struggled with anxiety for much of my life, sometimes I'm not winning the battle. And that's basically where I found myself recently. And I'm, so grateful that I've been friends with Zappy for a while. He introduced me to Warren. I've been hearing about this, incredible nonprofit that they're running with the Ketamine Fund, helping veterans, helping people that are on the brink of suicide get their lives back, get off of all those medications, and just like really find a sense of joy in life again. And of course, as a proponent of joy and a seeker of any tools that will help me get there and stay there, I was really curious. It seemed actually too good to be true when these guys would tell me about ketamine and everything that it could do. But when I got to a point recently where my anxiety was really kicking my ass, and I asked for advice, like, what should I do? Zappy said, you should try ketamine. And I value his opinion. So I was like, okay, I will give this a try. And the thing that really got me when Warren explained to me how ketamine changes neural pathways.
He got you through science.
He got me through science. So if I can, I'll just do a fun little demonstration. Just if you take a piece of paper and you fold it in half, you really line it up and crease it well, and you fold it in half again. Here. Okay, so just notice how long that took for me to fold this piece of paper in half twice. And then if I open it up again, and then I want to fold it again just the same way, I can fold it really quickly. Right. Okay, so this is how I explain to my elementary school students what neural pathways are. So when you're first creating a habit, and a habit can be an action or a thought in your brain, it's like you're putting those creases in for the first time, like learning how to ride a bike, learning how to play piano, learning anything for the first time. It takes some effort, it takes some time. But then after you do it, it becomes a habit, and then habits are what happen automatically. And so neural pathways are when the nerve endings in your brain clump together because it's a pathway or, a frequently visited action or thought, and it becomes like a groove in the brain or a clump of nerves in the brain that your brain will just go back to automatically. And so, we have neural pathways that are great, like you can drive and not even really notice that you're driving and you're like, oh, I'm already here.
Right. I think everybody had that experience.
Yeah, like you know how to ride a bike, you know how to, I don't know, cook pasta. Like you know, we all have certain neural pathways that are good, but we also have neural pathways that are really hard to change, that are not serving us. Like for me, my worry is, you know, it's a neural pathway. Like my worry will go back to the same story or the same topic. Like, really, that one again? Like, oh yeah, you know? And it's hard to change those neural pathways because they're literally wired into our brain. And so when I heard the mechanism behind ketamine, that you take this infusion, and, you know, I was like, oh, this is super weird. I'm going to stick a needle in my arm. Like, I'm not in with, you know, I'm not down with that. But when I heard that if I stuck a needle in my arm and I, you know, let this medicine run through my bloodstream, my brain would go through this major process of neurogenesis and rewire neural pathways, I was like, okay, sign me up, because that is basically the goal of my life.
Was that what convinced you? You said in the article, coming from the just say no to drugs era, I'm automatically opposed to injecting anything in my arm. So how did you, you know, was it a logical decision that was like, okay, everybody's telling me that this is so good and it's so beneficial that I'm just going to give it a try? Because it's still kind of, you know, it is a huge thing to kind of overcome, which is like ketamine. People have like, people are thinking like ketamine. It's like, is it like the things like, oh, the things that I hear sometimes, like, isn't it like a horse tranquilizer? Like all these kind of anecdotal things that people hear from a movie or somewhere, or like the street drug.
And it's a street drug, you know, so they think like, oh, you went and snorted some ketamine, like, ooh, Special K, you know, like,
right.
Did you go clubbing? I'm like, no, that's not what this is.
Right. And I think that's the biggest obstacle of that kind of stigma of something that's being used. And let's be clear, this is since 1970 when it was approved by FDA, and I think invented in 62. It's like super safe. It's used regularly as a anesthetic, right? It's used. It's FDA approved. All of that stuff. And it's just now recently, like past 2 decades or so, like when it's being explored, how can it be used in a fight against PTSD and anxiety and all of that. But still, you still are in depression and addiction, right? But you're still battling this kind of, oh, it's some kind of drug, and like people will judge you, like, oh, you just want to get high? Is that what it is? Like, you know, legally, like, is this like marijuana? Is this like? So how did you overcome that? You know, those thoughts of like, especially with all that, like, hey, just say no to drugs, and now you're like, you're about to do this and you did it. So what made you kind of switch and say like, yeah, now I'm going to do it. It's important.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, it really was the science, understanding the science behind the effect that ketamine has on the brain. Speaking to Warren, who has dealt with like very severe depression for so many years, and then hearing what a difference that it made in his life. So Warren Gumpel, who's the co-founder of the Ketamine Fund, he just has such an inspiring story. And then, you know, also hearing the story of how it's changed the lives of these veterans who've such extreme traumas and, you know, this extreme PTSD, and then thinking, okay, here's people with severe depression, here's people with severe PTSD, and it's helping them so much. What could it do for me, just like a normal person with a little anxiety, you know, like, wow, I'm really gonna get some benefits from it. But it was the desire to ease just my own mental anguish. Like my brain, my mind is so active on certain subjects that I just wanted relief from. And it seemed like it would do it. You know, understanding the science, it switches off. So there's the default mode network, whereas like the rumination, you know, it's the part of your mind that will go back, default to thinking about itself. And for people that are predisposed to worrying, it'll go back to like a worrying type of rumination. So it calms the activity in the default mode network. It opens up the dopamine receptors. So it was that kind of stuff is what really got me into it. Like, okay, I'm willing to give this a try because I understand the science behind it. I know how safe it is. I know that it is one of the top 5 medicines used in the world because it's so safe. They give it to kids in the emergency room at high doses. It's an anesthesia and it'll put you to sleep. But at this like low dose, at the right dose, it induces this really interesting state of mind where you're fully aware, but also like out of your body, and you can see things from a totally different perspective. So, you know, I always want to be able to see things from a different perspective, and sometimes I think we just need a catalyst to help there. Especially if you have a super active mind like I do.
It's funny you said the word catalyst, because that's what Zappi used when we were talking over here in one of our episodes about it. He was like, it's like a catalyst. It just opens up that gate for you, and then you can choose to go through it to kind of see things from different perspective. And I think that's such a powerful thing. I think that's a really great word for it,
because it's not like you're going to be needing ketamine for the rest of your life. It's like it gives you this different perspective. It opens up a new way of experiencing your life, helps you rewire those neural pathways, and then you're sort of get this reset. I'm so grateful that I was able to do it before like the whole Corona lockdown. I think my anxiety would be off the charts if I hadn't.
Right.
Honestly. I think a lot of people could benefit from it when this thing is over, because like we're all going to have PTSD to some extent.
It's such an interesting tool, and speaking with others who've done it, and others who actually went through like your standard treatment for like anxiety and being on like Prozacs and Vilbirins and what have you. There many people that I talk to, they say like we have things backwards. We should start with like ketamine, because it just it gives you it's so effective, it's so you know, it's just such a huge experience, and it works almost immediately, versus like a lot of these antidepressants you got to take for like weeks and weeks and weeks. And I'm not saying there's like
right,
no room
with
for
horrible
that.
Side effects,
right, but for like the 80-90% of people that can be, you know, can benefit from ketamine, and then whatever the remainder is that maybe are not responsive to it or what have you, there's always going to be edge cases, right? You always have that, but we seem to have it backwards now. We have like, hey, use these antidepressants for years and years, or months and months and years, or whatever, and then if nothing else works, then you if you're lucky, if someone tells you about it, then you will learn about ketamine, because it's not being typically even mentioned by standard regular medical practice.
Right.
So
right.
I think
I'm really hoping to help spread the word about it more and break the stigma around it. I mean, there's stigma around, you know, mental health in general, but this is something that more people should know is an option. I mean, the number of people that I know that are on antidepressants and having, you know, the horrible side effects, and it's just like not really working. And if they knew that ketamine was an option, and it means you can go off your medication and you feel great. Maybe you have a booster infusion every few months, but it can really change people's lives. It is changing people's lives for those that know about it, but I still think not that many people know about it. And it is, I think, a fairly new treatment for, you know, for depression or anxiety. The study started coming out like 20 years ago, which is still pretty new in the world of science. And there's about maybe like 130 ketamine clinics in this country, which really is, you know, only like a few per state. So you don't necessarily have that accessible right where you are. But I'm hoping that it'll increase, you know, that awareness will increase among people that could benefit from this, among doctors who could offer it. You know, my experience was very profound, and I'm really grateful that I was able to give it a try.
I like how and you mentioned that in your article. You went to a specific place, My Ketamine Road in Florida, and I love what they're doing, which is they're packaging everything up. Like you can have the ketamine treatment, but then it's also paired up with a mental health counselor conversation, which you know, a professional that can help you unpack this experience and integrate it and all of that. And I think that's such a crucial combination. And that's
the integration is
punch.
a really important part of the process, because when you have a ketamine experience, it can be like very profound, but then it can also be a little bit confusing afterwards. Like, okay, I saw a lot of things.
What does it mean?
I'm seeing things in a new way. What does it mean? And now I need to process it. So I really appreciate that My Ketamine Road has, therapists that are specifically trained in working with people with this medicine. They do it either by sessions afterwards, like especially within the 24 hours afterwards when you're in that really important neurogenesis period, or they even do ketamine assisted therapy where you have a low enough dose of the medicine that you can be having a conversation and the therapist is like in the room with you and you're talking through, which just totally brings down all those barriers, all those walls, and you're just like fully open to having that breakthrough that you would want to have in therapy. So yeah, I think that's a very innovative approach. They're doing that at My Ketamine Road in Miami. I'm hoping that, other ketamine clinics will be embracing that method as well. It's like highly effective as far as like My Ketamine Road looks at, all the statistics of who's coming in with what and what are their outcomes at the end.
Right.
And they've got
some metrics
positive outcomes in the 90th percentile. So it seems really good.
Well, we're gonna put links to your article and in Wake Up World.
Great.
to this wonderful article, because it gives more details so people can read about it and just kind of go through the journey with you, and there's more details over here that you guys should know about this. And I'm so glad that you chose to talk about it, because I think it's all about creating that awareness right now. It's going to kind of go through osmosis, people telling other people and their own testimonials and accounts, and if it's the right thing for you, and take us to the next level, combining the mindfulness, combining meditation, combining all the healthy stuff that we are supposed to do every day, and then also like incorporating these new tools that are coming out that are here that can take you yet to another level. And even I'd say even beyond just like depression and anxiety and PTSD, I think the experience itself, it's such a profound, it opens up these, at least it did for me, it opened up this gate for me that really just, like you said, different perspective, feeling of connectedness. It's such an opportunity to bond and reconnect with that feeling of like, hey, I see this spirit in you too. I see I see how connected we are. We're born, we're all going to die, we're all going through this life's journey, and just kind of feeling that more than like even cognitive perspective, but like this through feeling, you have that sensation. Yeah. And it's such a powerful thing that if you hold on to it, it'll yield you dividends for your whole life. Yeah.
I feel the same way. I'm really glad that's an experience that we shared, because it's like, oh yeah, you've been there too. Yeah. And I'm just all for any experience that can get us there, even just talking about like the connectedness that we feel through coronavirus, like anything that helps us feel connected right. to our source, connected to each other, whether it's a catalyst like ketamine or meditation or like whatever gets us there.
Right.
That's where I want to be as often as possible.
And maybe combining all of that together, so you have like this whole thing.
Definitely.
I like how you describe this place as a spa almost.
Oh man, it's a luxurious one for sure. They make it so nice there. Like aromatherapy, beautiful music, lovely atmosphere. But I think to continue that benefit that you receive from working with a catalyst like ketamine, you need to have some kind of daily practice that then you keep up. It's like really we need all the tools, and we need to be using all of them all the time.